Okay. Good morning and welcome to the 767th stated meeting of the Philadelphia Historical Commission. I'm Kim Washington, Vice Chair, and I will be facilitating today's meeting in place of our Chair, Zachary Frankel. Before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to John Farnham, the Executive Director of the Commission, who can go over some basic rules of order for today's meeting.
Thank you and good morning. As the Vice Chair, Acting Chair said, my name is John Farnham. A couple of notes about today's meeting. The meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available later today or perhaps on Monday on the Historical Commission's website, www.phila.gov/historical. On that website, on the public meetings page, you will find everything you need to participate in the meeting, the agenda for the meeting, applications, and any public comment received by noon yesterday. Most matters include an opportunity for public comment. I say most because the Commission typically does not take comment on continuance requests, but most matters do provide an opportunity for public comment. If you'd like to comment, you can use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. If you happen to be here in the room, you can just indicate that you'd like to speak. If you're out on Zoom, once you've been acknowledged to speak, you will need to unmute from your end. We'll unmute you from our end, but you'll also have to unmute. And you can do that with the audio toggle on Zoom. If you happen to be on a standard telephone, *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. The Commission typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if there is apparent disagreement among Commission members, a roll call vote can be conducted. And the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meetings. If you're unfamiliar with those, please take a look at them. They are on the webpage. They indicate order of presentation, time limits, and other important aspects of the presentations at the Commission meetings. With that, I will turn it back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We will start by going around and having the commissioners introduce themselves. I'll start to my right, Dan.
Good morning, Dan McCoubry, architect and chair of the Architectural Review Committee.
Thomas Holloman. Thomas Holloman, architect, representing City Council President.
Good morning, John Leck, representing the Department of Licenses and Inspections.
Good morning, Emily Cooperman, architectural and landscape historian and chair of the Historic Designation Committee.
Good morning, Franz Robauer. Good morning, Kyle O'Connor, representing the Department of Public Property.
Good morning, Matthew Treat, representing Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you, commissioners. Seeing that we have quorum, we will move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes from the June 12th meeting. I will open the floor to see if there's any questions or comments regarding the minutes from the June 12th meeting.
No hands are raised among the public.
Seeing that no hands are raised, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes from the June 12th meeting?
I'll move to adopt the meeting agenda minutes.
Do we have a second? Hearing no opposition, we will consider the meeting minutes from the June 12th meeting adopted by unanimous consent. Moving on to the second agenda on the item, the continuance request for 1910 Chestnut Street. That has been continued to the August 2026 meeting. Do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
Can I have a motion to continue 1910 Chestnut Street to the August 2026 meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Hearing no opposition, we will consider the case for 1910 Chestnut Street moved to the agenda for the August 2026 Historical Commission meeting. Moving on to the third agenda on the item, the report of the Architectural Committee. We have two items for the consent agenda, 1000 Spruce Street. Do we have any comment for 1000 Spruce Street being placed on the consent agenda.
No objections from the public.
Hearing none, can we have a motion to move, well, without any comment, assuming 1000 Spruce Street will be on the consent agenda. Moving on to 1800 Tasker Street, is there any comment about having 1800 Tasker Street on the consent agenda?
No hands are raised.
With no hands raised, we will consider 1800 Tasker Street to be on the consent agenda. Moving on to the first case for the Architectural Committee is 1319 to 25 Market Street. Do we have anyone here to represent the property owner? We'll turn it over to the applicant.
Oh, thank you. Now you can. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eileen Quigley. I'm from Ballard Spar LLP, 1735 Market Street, 51st floor, Philadelphia 19103. I am here on behalf of the applicant. The residence is at the Marriott, 1319 to 25 Market Street. I believe we have, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Eileen. So we'll go ahead and we'll read a brief overview. And then also if I can ask Tony, if you can elevate Ed Farrington, Jose Toro, and Bill Walther as panelists, and they can join Eileen
Thank you.
representing this
My
application.
apologies, Allison.
That's okay. This application proposes hotel signage and lighting at the former Market Street National Bank, now Marriott Residence Inn at 1319 to 25 Market Street. The fabric banner signage is proposed for 3 locations on the historic building. 2 of the sign banners would be located at the corner of Market and Juniper Streets. A 3rd sign would face Juniper Street at the corner of Commerce and Juniper Streets. The signage would be 20 feet by 3 feet wide and connected to the hardware installed into the mortar joints. Additional signage would be incorporated into the existing contemporary awning located above the hotel's main entrance. It would be channel letters on a black metal curved band. The existing awning was approved by the Historical Commission. Uplighting is also proposed on the awning and on the building ledge under the banner signs. The Architectural Committee voted to recommend approval of the marquee signage with staff to review details and denial of the banner signage and lighting pursuant to standards 9 and 10. And Eileen Quigley is representing her client, and there are 3 other people here to discuss the application as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, good morning, Acting Chair Washington, members of the commission, Dr. Farnham, Allison, and everybody else here. It's very good to see everybody in person. We thank you for your time. We actually have 2 requests this morning. We will be looking for approval of the marquee signage, but we would be asking for a continuance on the uplighting and the banners. Just to give you some background, we want to thank the commission staff for their help along the way. We've been going back and forth for several months, and they've been very helpful in guiding this application. It initially started out with sign boxes that were internally illuminated, and then we got to the banners, which we presented to the Architectural Committee on June 23rd. And we had a very productive meeting, lots of good recommendations. So at this point, the applicant would like to go back internally and really explore some of the recommendations made by the Architectural Committee, including perhaps installation of the banners perpendicular to the walls. This is going to take some time. That's why we weren't ready to present today. They have some design professionals they need to engage and do further internal conversation about that. So we would appreciate it if the board would respectfully consider our request for continuance of that uplighting and those banners. And secondly, we are here to request approval of the marquee sign. It has been approved. The marquee was approved by the Historical Commission. It's not historic fabric. This sign would just be a band around the marquee. It's internally illuminated. It's at ground, basically at the 1st floor level. Right, as you can see, there's a rendering of it at night. So they're punched through letters. The whole thing isn't internally illuminated. It's just the light show behind the letters. So we would be asking for final approval of that marquee sign.
Do we have any comments from the commissioners?
The Architectural Committee split this application into two parts and recommended approval of the alterations to the marquee, but denial of the fabric applied signage and the lighting. The lighting specifically, we requested more details about how it would be installed and how the conduit would run. So I think I'm certainly willing to consider a continuance for those two components and approval of the marquee as requested by the applicant.
What's the existing, other than the rendering of Allison, is that existing?
That is
Okay,
existing.
it's very clear, hard to tell these days what's a rendering, what's existing. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Do we have any comment from the public?
Excuse me, no hands are raised.
Then I will give it back to the commissioners. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion for approval of alterations to the marquee and a continuation of consideration of the banners and the uplighting.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Hearing no opposition, we will approve the motion to, I'm sorry, Dan, could you say it again?
So we are approving alterations to the marquee and continuing the signage and uplighting.
So we will consider that motion approved by unanimous consent. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
good luck.
time. Have a wonderful day.
Moving on to the next case, 4619 to 25 Longshore Avenue. We will have a brief overview by Ted Moss.
Good morning, everyone. Our representatives of Toner Architects on the call, they can be elevated, but I'll read a brief overview. This in-concept application proposes erecting an elevator tower at the rear of the building at 4619 to 25 Longshore Avenue, the former Tacony Club, with a small vestibule communicating with the parking lot. The elevator tower would expand existing window openings into doors at the first and second floors, and at the third floor level, the rear dormer would be widened to meet the tower and provide access to the upper floor. The proposed massing and materials appear to be compatible with the historic resource, and the tower is located to minimally impact the building's primary elevations. The conceptual nature of the plans makes it difficult to fully evaluate the extent to which the project meets the standards. Of particular note, the plans call for the removal of a portion of the cornice and a significant alteration of the rear dormer. An application for final approval should provide detail about these changes to character-defining elements. At its meeting on June 23rd, the Architectural Committee voted to recommend denial in concept and encouraged the applicants to further study alternate locations for an elevator on the site. The applicants have submitted revised elevation and site plan drawings for your conceptual review, which rotate the entry vestibule outward and shift the tower slightly in relation to the window openings.
We'll turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Andy Gray with Toner Architects. Thank you for having me this morning. We had a lively discussion the last time, lots of great feedback, and it really made us go back to the drawing board a bit in terms of how we organized this on the site and located it along the building. In particular, one major gesture that we did, as was mentioned, was rotating the vestibule around to the parking lot side of the elevator. What that did was on that left elevation you're looking at right now, there was concern over the addition overlapping some of the window openings. As you can see there, that was cutting right in front of two openings. That version there that you're looking at, our goal was to align it on the window openings that are on the second, first, and floor below. But really in retrospect and in a lot of our discussion, a lot of concern was brought up about how that interacts with the dormer above as well. As you can see there in that version, it was offset to the left of the dormer, and what that was requiring was an addition to the dormer and major reconstruction of that. If you could go back to the new version, that'd be good. What we realized in what we did was we shifted the elevator to the right to align with the center of the dormer instead of the window openings, but that didn't quite work out either. As you can see, it would have overlapped with the windows again to the right. So what we did instead was we aligned that elevator addition with the wall of the dormer, so it's slightly offset a little bit. But what this does is it really creates a pretty simple interaction with the building itself. Looking at the right elevation, all that we really need to do to this dormer now is extend a little bit of the roof line over the dormer to meet the vertical wall of the elevator rear portion. So that greatly reduces, the demolition of that dormer and expansion to the side of it. So we should be able to cut directly into that now with an elevator opening, and miss the other existing openings that I was mentioning previously. So this option, I think, solved a lot of those concerns about just keeping that initial character intact and really not trying to alter too much of it. In terms of the actual elevator openings themselves, on the left elevation, I have those dashed in with rectangles with X's, just so you can visualize where those are actually going to hit within the building. As you can see, the window openings are pretty large in this building, which is nice. Going to the design itself, there were some additional revisions there. In terms of the vestibule, we took that stone base treatment and expanded that up vertically on that side just to break up that elevation a little bit further. Just thought it looked nicer versus just having that band stuck horizontally only. It kind of broke up that elevation. We also added another piece of banding up towards the roof fascia line. Our hopes being that if this cornice is restored at some point in the future, we have some sort of starting point or edge point where at least visually those can be connected. As we noted in our drawings here, the cornice is noted to be salvaged and stored for future reuse. It's not part of this project, unfortunately, to restore that. And, as this sort of project will be a VA residential project, and this has been a hard project to redevelop over the years. So we have to be pretty conscious what we're doing budget-wise and keep things simple as best we can. So I thought it was a lot of great input that we got last meeting, and we do like this version a lot more now. I think it works better with the existing building itself. Really, one of the only negatives of it is we lost 2 parking spots in comparison to the prior version. And that's about it. I'm here for any questions. If you want to discuss it, throw out any other ideas, we're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the commissioners for comment.
I think the revised scheme does address some concerns raised by committee members. There were other suggestions made, including pulling the elevator shaft away from the building so that it didn't engage the roof and dormer in quite such a difficult way. I think there were questions about, do all 3 floors need to have elevator access? But I think that's something that, as this project moves forward, the applicant needs to make that case, that if 2 floors are served by the elevator, does that meet their accessibility requirements? We also asked about putting it internally. That would come at a cost of units, which I think in this sort of project would be a major impediment. I think that this certainly is an improvement, the rotation of the vestibule. I do have a question about the alignment of the shaft as repositioned and the windows immediately to the right and how is that clear of the masonry jambs there?
It is. It's very close. I mean, it's a matter of 2 or 3 inches at most. Can I give a little thoughts based upon what you said? Would that be okay?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I wanted to address the couple other options you mentioned. One, the internal and external. So one being inside the building and one being outboard of the building with some sort of connector, bridge, or walkway. We did present that to the owner, and honestly, she just didn't like the ideas and wanted to present this sort of option first. She didn't like the idea of visually. I mean, we may like it, but the owner did not. Of like a glass wall connector separating from the building, something like that. She thought it felt too modern for what this sort of building was, and she didn't like the idea of it. And then going inside the building, she was concerned over how obviously that may impact the interior layout of the building and how that functions. But she just visually didn't like something popping through the middle of the roof as well at some spot. So she wanted us to look at this option first that we worked through and get your take. We weren't just ignoring you, but I wanted to say that out loud that we did talk about it and came to this.
The problem is that the version in which you have this engaged shaft doesn't really meet the standards, and that's the issue. And that's our problem. I had a question about
what standards? Sorry.
These are the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, and
Okay.
specifically Standard 9.
Okay, not allowed to have attached. Okay.
Which essentially, which is our guidelines in making approvals for projects. And the goal is to minimally affect historic fabric. And unfortunately, that's not what we have at the moment with the proposed design. And I'm wondering about in the original scheme, it looked like and I think you said your goal was to have the openings from the new construction go through existing window openings, but it doesn't look like they line up in the revised version. Am I reading that correctly?
You are. So basically we're trying to take the lesser of two evils. The first version overlapped windows that were, technically usable. So this version, yes, it doesn't go through the existing openings, but it saves the whole dormer and other historical components that now we don't have to touch or adjust. So that was kind of our mindset, was that those windows would have been concealed behind the shaft, the elevator addition anyway, and they wouldn't be visible. So that seemed like the less impactful option.
It's not a question of visibility. It's a question of the actual impact on the historic fabric is the issue.
Well, I mean, they're not at floor height anyway, so we would have to adjust them regardless, even if they were aligned.
Sure, understood.
If I could add, the one other benefit of having it more of a disconnection between the shaft and the building, it doesn't interfere with the cornice. The dormer isn't an issue, and like Emily stated, you can use these existing openings. So I think exploring that would be a better option.
Very worried about budget of that option. I'm just not sure it's possible, but we can look at it. This was a very tight project financially to get through, as I kind of mentioned. It's not something a lot of people are developing, and she talked about that with a contractor as well, and they were concerned about that regard, just for what it's worth.
If I could add one more thing, I don't think personally, a glass walkway would be appropriate, so maybe you could explore some different options. It's not necessarily what people would think when they meant the connector
Yeah,
bridge.
doesn't have to be glass.
Okay, I was just taking, the comment.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to be glass necessarily.
Yeah, that's what we presented back and she did not like that.
Sure, understood. That's not necessary. That would not be something that we would be dictated by the standards. It just would have to be differentiated from the historic fabric.
Okay.
And then, even with a connector, you're still going to interrupt the dormer and the cornice, but it would be much less of an interruption.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for minimal here.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they probably could make a connector that ties in below the cornice. I don't know how that would be detailed, but
Because the issue is it wouldn't get to the third floor.
Yeah, we'd have to have an internal
Third
Oh.
floor is,
air ramp or something. at that
Yeah, they're
point.
trying to get the elevator up to the third floor.
so, and that
That's, yeah.
again is the
Yeah,
accessibility.
the third floor is lower than the roof line. It's a little bit popped down.
Sure, right.
John, do we have any comments from the public? Or do we have hands raised?
No hands are raised.
Okay, then I'll turn it back over to the commission. The commissioners, do we want to make a motion?
I think I could make a motion for approval of the concept of an exterior rather than interior elevator in this case. But that denying conceptual approval of the elevator shaft as currently shown, with the request that the additional options be presented at the next go-round.
Yeah, I will second that.
Hearing no opposition, we will consider the motion adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you.
Thank you for the input, everybody.
Thank you. Moving on to the next case, 27 Drew Moore. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Lane. We'll turn it over to Josh Schroeder to do a brief overview.
Good morning. I'm Josh Schroeder with the staff. Before I read an introduction, I believe the property owner and representatives are here, and if anyone's online to also represent the application, they could raise their hand to be elevated. This revised application proposes to construct a dormer addition at the third floor of the mansion at 27 Drew Moore Lane, known as Brinkwood, to accommodate various interior alterations. The proposal includes the demolition of a portion of the roof and a small existing dormer. The new dormer would include 2 aluminum-clad window systems whose alignment and configuration would resemble those on the first and second stories below, with cedar shake siding to match the existing facade. The roof's existing asphalt shingles would be replaced with slate tiles. In its June 23rd review of the initial proposal, the Architectural Committee commented that the new window system would not be easily distinguishable from the historic windows below, and that the addition's massing should be both reduced and it should be pulled back from the cornice line. The current revisions include a small reduction in the addition's height, a sloped roof, and a decrease of 3 rows of panes in the addition to 2, but the addition is not set back from the roof edge. And just some context, the committee and commission have reviewed 2 previous similar proposals in 2023. At each review, the initial proposal was, including one similar to this one, was substantially revised after the Architectural Committee in favor of kind of plainer shed dormer designs that were both conditionally approved by the Historical Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. We'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Sean Whalen here from the Whalen Law Group on behalf of Ori Feibush, the property owner. So what we have, we believe, is a minimal, as minimal as possible to achieve the goals here. I'll start at the beginning You did hear that this was previously approved in 2023. The difference and the reason why we're not wasting your time coming back for the same thing is actually there are two interior staircases in this property. There's a primary staircase, and then there's a very small secondary staircase. That secondary staircase was anticipated to be used as the main staircase up to activate the third floor, which was an attic, and has just been determined, and that's what got the prior approval, was to use that secondary staircase. That secondary staircase is very narrow, very unsafe, and really not fit for standard everyday use. It was never intended for that. And so the reason why we're back before you is in order to actually use that third floor, we're extending the primary staircase up. And I don't know if you want me to do it, but you just went by, there you go. The two photos on the right show the primary staircase. So that's in place, and all it would, what this application envisions internally is extending that staircase up to basically be able to expand the existing single-family use here. So that's why, again, just as some background, why we're back in front of you again and not just asking for the same thing. So here, if you could, this is the revised. Do you have the regular, the original one up?
Yes.
Open. If you could go to it and just go to the first page, just the aerial view, or the second page, the aerial view real quick. So just to give everybody some context, this is in Chestnut Hill. And actually, I think there was, yeah, there you go. The red dot is this home called Brinkwood at 27 Drummoor. It is behind the SCH Academy school. You're about 1,000 to 1,200 feet from any public right-of-way. And so this house is individually designated. We're not suggesting it shouldn't be or anything of the sort. However, the side of this building that is at issue and that we're talking about replacing kind of one existing small attic dormer is about 1,200 feet from the closest public right-of-way. And no one can see this even from the private road that is part of this association. So if you could go down just a couple of pages. Just trying to get to the visual. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you. So this is the existing condition of that west elevation. You can see in the kind of in the middle on the top floor, there's that very small existing dormer. That is to a third floor attic space. And then if you go down one page, this is the revised application. Again, my client took this project to the Architectural Review Committee. This originally had much larger windows there, actually matching the second floor. And the Architectural Review Committee felt that that was not differentiating it enough under the standard number 9 from the historic fabric and the new modern fabric, and recommended denial. However, did suggest that they may be they didn't see this, so they couldn't have reviewed it, but that they may be in favor of approval of smaller windows, and had actually suggested, so you can see at the bottom, there are 4 rows of panes, then it goes up to 3 rows of panes, and then down to 2 at the top floor. That's to shrink that top floor, the window scale and size, in line with what was heard at the Architectural Review Committee. So again, the issue here is the expansion of this existing use, trying to adaptively reuse this and modernize it. The applicant did investigate actually trying to expand that interior third floor stair that already exists, the small attic stair. Unfortunately, that would result in losing 2 of the 3 bathrooms in the home. And so it's really not even a potentially viable option. So again, the front of the home is on the left in this screen. You come down a driveway, you see that side of the elevation, and then you come around the house, and this would be the side elevation. So that is, this would be part of an extremely this is not a hardship hearing. I'm not trying to allege that it is. This home has seen, we'll call it politely, a lot of deferred maintenance over decades. So this home requires the replacement of all the windows, all the siding, and the entire roof structure. So this is part of that idea of very significant development and adaptive reuse of this property. Oh, sorry, just the roof. I apologize if I misspoke.
Not roof structure.
Not the roof structure, just the roof itself. I apologize.
That was a little scary.
Yeah, just making sure everyone's awake. Obviously, I'm not entirely awake yet. Apologies for that. So with that, I don't know if, or you want to add to that?
Just very briefly, my family, my wife, 3 kids, a Yorkie poo live in this home here. A mix of woodpeckers and termites have, over the last 50 years, left this home into a position that truly the entire exterior needs to be removed. A few years ago, when I was before you, there was a question of whether the original roof was cedar shake or slate, and we've determined that it was slate. We are looking to replace it with slate here, which is actually a lot easier for the turrets, and so that's good. And we're just trying to find a way to benefit from the 3rd floor space, which is quite generous, but to get up there in a safe way. I have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and they love the secret staircase, but it's absolutely terrifying every time they go up and down it. In fact, I fell with my 2-year-old now, but when she was an infant going up those stairs, and we spent an afternoon at CHOP. It's just not a staircase that's safe. And so I'm hoping to just to create both aesthetically what I hope is very respectful for the property, but ultimately something that will allow my family to live here for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
The Architectural Committee really supported the staff's recommendation that the dormer should be more like a dormer and should set back, and that the cornice should continue with a roof edge separating it from the floors below. And that by extending this up in a very similar way to the windows on the lower levels, that kind of is a fundamental change. Committee acknowledge that this is not visible from the public right of way. I think if you go to the section drawing of the stair does not come out to the front edge, so it is possible to achieve the stair but pull the dormer back. There was also discussion about the scale of the stair and does the stair have to be the same dimension going to the 3rd floor as it is going to the second floor. So the Architectural Committee, for those reasons, did vote to deny this application as inconsistent with Standard 9. And this is a very important house as well. It's I forget whether it's Woodward or Houston, but
I think it's extended Houston family.
Houston family house.
Yeah, I forget which one.
Designed by the Hewitt brothers and
Yeah.
individually designated.
Yeah.
And,
I can't remember which
we
member
did
of the
review
Houston
a similar proposal. The Architectural Committee reviewed it twice and rejected it twice. And I think as was pointed out by the staff, the commission also reviewed this and approved a more minimal dormer solution.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see a pressing reason why we would change our mind from what we previously approved. And I understand you're wanting to change the stair. Certainly, I will just have a minor quibble with Mr. Whalen. Yes, that stair was used every day by the servants. It was not occasional use. But I do understand that people living in that house today would not want to hazard the possible, presumably steep rise or height is my guess, from what it is and so on. But I don't see why we would change our mind, frankly. We've approved a different version, and we understand that you want more light, you want a bigger stair, but that doesn't comport with the standards.
Sure, thank you. I would just, it's not just rise or height. It is effectively a spiral staircase with pie-shaped treads. I would just share that the original, I would say, designed by consensus approval would not support extending the stairs. It would certainly support bringing light to the third floor, but certainly would not have supported bringing the stairs up. And I certainly appreciate there's a philosophical difference between the architectural committee and myself, where they want, if we're going to make any improvements, to make it clear and distinct from what was there historically. And as the resident of the home, I want to look like it's been there forever. And it's not sat well with me for years what had been approved, and just thought that it would look poor. One additional item, which probably won't play into any factor, and some of you know me as a developer, but I also happen to be the largest collector of early American lighting in the world. And I have what is truly the collection of Bradley and Hubbard and Tucker lighting out of Meridian, Connecticut, Cornelius Baker out of Philadelphia. And extending this stair tower also allows me to maintain the grandness of the entrance and the experience, and to install lighting that is second to none and in keeping with the historic fabric of the building. Admittedly, this was gas, and most of my lighting is whale oil, kerosene effectively. But we're looking to truly bring this back to its 1880s grandeur. And this admittedly de minimis change that only my family will be able to see for the next 50 years is a mechanism to allow us to do that. And so I just want to share that sort of subjective aspect to it, but I certainly appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, and I just want to make a important point, although it's perhaps a relatively minor one, is that it's not a question of caprice on the part of the committee or the commission. It's in the standards that are our guidelines, that new construction should be differentiated from historic.
Well, just sure this is the rear of the home as well here. It's certainly not, of course. Thank you.
Hearing nothing else from the commissioners, do we have any hands raised from the public?
Two hands are raised. First, Timothy Reimer, and then Lori Arnold.
Do we want to hear from Timothy first?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I would just ask that the commission follow the staff recommendation and the recommendation from the Chestnut Hill Conservancy and reject this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we want to elevate the other person, their hand raised?
Yes, Lori Arnold, being unmuted now.
I take issue with the commission rejecting this. There have been many times when you guys have allowed changes that are out of the view corridor. And, you know, there's another factor when you're dealing with historic preservation is if you put this up there, can it be undone? And I think the answer is yes. You know, as a conservator, we have to think about reversibility. And, you know, making a change to a building that's as simple as a dormer, any architect knows that that could be undone. Nobody can see it. And it's about making, you know, historic houses livable, especially when we're being pressed on by developers so strongly. I take issue with denying this. It's a home, and Ori is, you know, putting life back into it and making it livable. And I have no issue as a longtime preservationist with this change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more hands raised?
No other hands are raised.
Turn it back over to commissioners. I'll just chime in and say that I am also on the fence because I have seen us in cases, especially where the improvements have been in the rear, kind of step away from the standards to accommodate homeowners who want to make improvements to make their livable situation in their homes a little bit more comfortable. So I will say that issue kind of has me on the fence, although I do understand the conflict with having it differentiate from the historic fabric and that being a part of the standards and us strictly adhering by the standards, but I have seen us deviate in cases for residential properties, especially when it's been towards the rear. So I will say as a commissioner, I am on the fence with that issue. I don't know if anyone wants to piggyback off of that or comment.
Yeah, I would just say that I think that the homeowners' goals could be achieved without such a significant change to the rear of the building. And I would also point out that this really, is an extension of the second floor and not a dormer and I think the commission has already approved a dormer alteration that's quite significant. And that within that framework that the owner could achieve their goals.
I think I will piggyback to one I've had experience where the rear of the building is not as significant as the front of the building. And this building is in the woods, so there's not a lot of public vision to it. So I would support changing it, allowing it to be approved. Thank you.
I would say, given the fact that, yes, I'm certainly not going to argue with the idea that it's minimally visible, if at all visible, but I think there is a fundamental difference between many of the projects that we have approved that are out of the public right of way in Center City and relatively small row houses, for example, versus a very, I can't think of the right adjective, but a house that is essentially just was designed very much as a sculptural object in 3 dimensions by the Hewitt brothers. And so, yes, in a sense, it's a rear, but it's not the same kind of rear hierarchy from one elevation to the next that is the case with a service back of house rear elevation with a lot of the projects that we see that we've approved. So I think that's part of my hesitation on this one. And I think, again, I'm not an architect and I'm not going to try to redesign your project. I wouldn't anyway, even if I were an architect. But I have to take the word of the very experienced architect who's sitting across the table from me, whose belief it is that this could be rethought slightly without any loss of the kind of changes to the stair that you are seeking, which is obviously not within our purview to address. It's in the interior of the house. You are making a change that you wish to make it more livable. We have nothing to say about that. But I do see a difference between the kind of rear elevation changes that we have approved and this one.
Do we have any other comments or questions from the commissioners? If not, I'll turn it over to the commissioners for a motion.
Acknowledging and appreciating the effort that's going into restoring this house. I will move for denial of the application as presented for the alterations to the roof and dormers.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Can we have
I was just about to say, I think given the the mixed reviews. I think this calls for a roll call vote, so we'll go around. Dan, we'll start with Dan.
Yay.
Nay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
Nay.
Yes.
Nay. Nay.
Hmm.
John, do you want to?
Your voting was very quick. Just a moment.
Okay. Do I have to
Com-
do that again? Can we
No,
do
I
that again?
got all but Commissioner Treat. Okay, now I need to count.
Okay.
The vote is 6-4 in favor of the motion.
Okay, so we will consider the motion adopted with a 6-4 vote to deny the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next case, 1523 to 29 Wallace Street. We'll have a brief overview from staff member Kim Chantry.
Good morning. Tony, if we could please elevate architect Derek Spencer as the applicant for this project. This application proposes to construct a 4-story multi-unit residential structure on the surface parking lots at 1523 to 29 Wallace Street. It appears the buildings that once stood on the lot were demolished around 1966. The site consisted of several vacant lots at the time of the Spring Garden Historic District designation with a non-historic site wall. Therefore, the Historical Commission's jurisdiction over the undeveloped site is review and comment only. This means that the Historical Commission and its Advisory Architectural Committee may offer non-binding comments on the application at public meetings, but may not approve or deny it. And that concludes my presentation.
Is there anyone here to represent the applicant?
Yes, we have Derek Spencer here.
Derek.
Sorry, over Zoom.
Hi, good morning, members.
Good morning.
Thank you for reviewing our application this morning. Based on the committee's comments, we did make a few changes that I think were very beneficial to the overall feel of the building. Mostly these were shifts in section of the building. So we increased the floor-to-floor height from the first to second floor by just over a foot. And then we reduced the floor-to-floor height at the fourth floor from the fourth floor to the roof by 6 inches. Then we also reduced the parapet height by about 9 inches. So this really helped with the proportions of the building with some taller openings at the base. Second and third floor have the same height opening, and then the fourth floor has a shorter window. We also changed the entry to the building. Prior, there was about 18 inches of space between the cast stone and the sill of the windows above. We raised this up so the cast stone goes the whole way to the sills of the windows of the second floor. And then we added transom windows above the entry door just to give a little bit more of a hierarchy of scale to the entry to make sure that that was taller than the window heads that flank it on either side. So those are really the only changes that we made after the committee's comments. So I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to the commissioners for comment.
The Architectural Committee certainly appreciated the level of detail and the materials that are proposed for this project. And the applicant has responded to all of the suggestions that were made by committee members. And so I think it's a wonderful project and would certainly recommend. Well, we have no, we don't need to vote, but I think it's a terrific job.
I would just like to add, reiterate what Dan said. I mean, you addressed every comment, and it's really successful in this rendering to make it fit the neighborhood, and especially the first floor. That squatness of the first floor was, but this is going to be a nice project. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just reiterate, great job, really nice building.
Mm-hmm.
This building.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public?
Yes, one hand is raised. David Traub.
David?
Good morning, David Traub representing Save Our Sites. Yeah, I just want to echo the comments of the commission. Yeah, I think this is an exemplary project. Kind of an infill, was a vacant lot. You have a nice new building here, flat facade, red coloration. It stands as a good prototype for further development in the neighborhood. Yes, it's one floor above the adjacent buildings. I'm glad they show the context. But there are many buildings in that neighborhood that are 4-story that are really quite tall. So this is really a good project, and we'd like to see more projects of this sort as going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Do we have any other hands raised?
No other hands are raised.
Well, thank you. And good
Thank you,
luck with this
everyone. Appreciate
project.
your time. Thank you.
Moving on to the final case on the architectural committee list is 3500 South Broad Street, and we'll have a brief overview from staff member Alex Teal.
Thank you very much. This is Alex Till with the staff, and we have our applicants here with us today for this project. We have landscape architect Brittany Scherer, architect Al Wolf, and museum director Tracy Beck. And if you'll let me read a brief overview, then we can have a discussion. So this application proposes to construct an auxiliary building on the grounds of the American Swedish Historical Museum in FDR Park. It additionally proposes a number of exterior landscape improvements, including constructing an ADA accessible ramp, adding a paved parking area, constructing pedestrian paths in a plaza, and adding exterior lighting to the building. The building was constructed in 1926 by Swedish-American architect John Neiden as part of the sesquicentennial celebration held at FDR Park, and has housed the American Swedish Historical Museum since 1928. The auxiliary building will be positioned on the western side of the museum building between it and Pattison Avenue, and its design imitates the colors and materials of the museum building. The parking area will be situated on the eastern side of the building near Pattison Avenue and will be connected to the museum building by a series of paved pedestrian paths and a paved plaza. The ADA ramp will be constructed on the park-facing south side of the building. Finally, lighting will be installed both at ground level, on poles, and by a wall sconce element on the museum building. The entire building and grounds are visible from both Pattison Avenue and FDR Park. The Architectural Committee at their meeting voted to recommend approval of the project, provided the proposed ramp and its acrylic panels are re-examined, and the location and design of the auxiliary building are revised to be more compatible with the historic building pursuant to Standard 9. After the Architectural Committee review, the applicants did submit revisions, including a simpler design for the auxiliary building, removing the acrylic panels from the ADA accessible ramp, and adding additional viewshed studies showing the placement of the auxiliary building in context with the rest of the site.
Thank you, Alice. I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Tracy Beck, the Executive Director of the American Swedish Historical Museum. Thank you for the great introduction. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year as an organization, and the board has prioritized these projects as a way to make the museum safer, more accessible, and more visible with the way that modern people approach a structure and use a structure. One thing that came up a lot at the Architectural Review Committee was the auxiliary building. So I just wanted to clarify that the reason that we are asking for the auxiliary building is it's allowing us to have a place to store all of the things that we use for outdoor programming. Since the pandemic, we added or modernized the terrace in 2014, and we use that for programming basically every weekend from April through December. That's a lot of tables, chairs, midsummer poles, and other very large things. And so that is the intention of the auxiliary building, is that it's close and usable for storage of those supplies. So I just wanted to clarify that for the group, what the intention is, but I'll pass it on to my colleagues here.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
I'm Brittany Shear with the Studio Sistema. I'm a landscape architect. I just want to add on to what Tracy said. During the architectural committee review, there were some questions raised about the auxiliary building location, and we talked through a lot of it at the meeting, but we did not have adequate visuals and graphics to support that discussion. So part of our revisions today include a site plan diagram showing the proximity needs that Tracy was mentioning. We also illustrated in plan form some of the physical site constraints, such as the rain gardens and the steep slopes, existing mature trees, including a heritage pin oak. So hopefully that's a lot clearer in this package. We also included quite a number of photographs with a keyed plan, so you can see some of the existing view sheds, which weren't clear in our previous package of materials. So happy to answer any questions. We still firmly believe this is the right location for the auxiliary building. We believe it balances all of the elements that we've talked through. Particularly with the view sheds, it maintains the iconic approach from the park side. It also maintains the visibility of the terminus of the arcade and the cupola from Patterson Avenue, which is one of the very clearly legible and visible items as you approach Patterson Avenue from your car, which is how most people approach the museum on Patterson Avenue. And it also preserves the historic views from the Parkside Terrace, specifically through the southernmost arcade windows, which are very clearly visible from the terrace. So we firmly believe that this is the right location for the auxiliary building for those reasons, and we'd be happy to answer any questions or address any comments you may have. Thank you.
I'm Wolf Architect, and I'm happy to be here today this morning. Well, Brittany made a really nice slide. Maybe we can find it showing the location decisions that were made in this process. And I think if you flip through
Just a sec, sorry. I think it's for the rear here, right?
let's see. It's an overall board that shows retention basin and some of the other factors that went into this. But if you don't find it, Brittany can describe it probably on this slide.
My apologies. I'll look around for it real quick. I'm sorry. I've gotten a little lost in here.
I think it's a little more interior to the presentation, Alex, if that's helpful.
One of these, or?
It looks like it might be missing actually in some of the slides.
Yeah, I
that
might
we
have,
used.
I apologize. I may have lost track of it with this current version of the presentation that I have. I'm sorry, I don't see the slide in what I have here. I'm unable to pull it up.
Well, actually, you could probably describe it.
Yeah, I certainly can. And Alex, is it possible for the commission to, I don't know if you all have seen the revised slides or we're just not, we don't have the right presentation today. Okay. Just want to make sure you all have a chance to see it. Verbally to describe it, there's quite a few physical constraints. There's quite a few view sheds to manage. I mean, this is a really stunning building that truly has no back architecturally, no back of house. So we really paid close attention to that in the setting of the auxiliary building as well. So those photographs help illustrate all those important view sheds.
So can I hop in and talk a little bit about the auxiliary building?
Yes, please do.
Okay, good. I know we've sent a number of slides over and I hope you find the right one.
Yeah, I apologize again. I'm looking around.
No, Alex, we appreciate it. On the auxiliary building at our last meeting, one of the points that was made is trying to minimize the view of it from Patterson Avenue. And I don't know if you can see it from this perspective, but if we go to some of the other slides, we did slope the roof on all sides now. So yeah, not quite that way. It's one where we chop off the ends and slope it up on all sides.
So it's a hip roof rather
Yeah.
than a gable?
Yes,
This was the slide I had received, so.
Oh. Okay, that's the version we want. Okay, all right. My mistake. So this is what we're presenting, and the modifications on the other side of it are the windows were taken out of the doors, and some of the ornate quality of the circular embellishment is no longer there. So when we position the building, there is one slide that shows from the arcade looking at the building that's very compelling, because we were concerned that it not overshadow the existing museum. And Alex, if you are able to find that one shot, I think that will show you how it's been minimized.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to figure out what happened between the presentation I currently have and the revised slides, so.
It looks like from what my colleague Commissioner Robber found and what we're seeing is that you're proposing a hip roof on the back and a gable on the front at the entrance. Is that correct?
This is the current version.
That was the original, the hip roof is the original. The current is this more simplified roof.
It's the gable.
So
The
the architect,
front gable.
the architectural committee, the version that we saw had a hip roofed on the back.
Yeah,
and a
that's what
gable
I,
on the
oh,
front,
okay,
and
fine.
We had suggested a hip roof on both sides to really minimize.
Yeah, but
its
now you're proposing
visibility.
gable, front
Now they have
gable.
gables on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that I like the gable roof is when you're looking from Pattison Avenue, you're getting more of the view of the light color against the light color building and less roof, which interrupts the, it's just a very, very light facade of the whole building. So from Pattison Avenue, you see less roof with this particular design, although. But I think it's a fine point that's not super important to us, how the roof ends up, but that's why I prefer this one.
I would definitely suggest the hip roof would be much less visually intrusive than the gable.
Yeah, I mean, I understand and appreciate your observation about the color, but I think it's really a question of the mass. I mean, I understand your needs and that these changes and having currently have a family member who needs to get as close to a building in order to get into it as possible. I understand it's a difficult problem that you have, obviously, you know, much better than I. But it's a difficult problem for us to wrestle with, is the fact that this is such an insistently symmetrical building on two elevations, its two major elevations, that you are now proposing, and we understand why, to make the organization of the site asymmetrical, and that's tough. Since obviously symmetry has been one of the main organizing principles of the entire site.
Very much.
Actually, could you bring up the site plan that shows the trees? Because I think it is the trees that is largely determining in some ways the position of the shed. And I think it's also important to note that the fence line does quite severely limit the available area for this auxiliary building.
Correct. If I could, I'd love to comment on that additionally. The graphic we included with our revised presentation outlines the fence line and some of those constraints much more clearly than these site plans do. So hopefully you get a chance to see those. I will
Yeah.
say, you know, the symmetry of the building is obviously very important. We think the preservation of the site in general is also important. So working around those existing canopy trees and preserving the historic landscape that the museum sits in is also a factor that we were balancing. So we're really trying to strike a balance between the two, as well as provide the accessibility and the functionality that the museum needs. So we're balancing quite a few elements with this project.
I would say that, you know, while the committee wished the building could be moved further away, I think that both constraints of that site, the heritage trees and the sort of need for proximity of this to the areas being served were important, and that if this roof line became a hip all the way around, that the building would be less visually intrusive. I would also add that the ramp as revised takes the comments of the architectural committee into account.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else from commissioners. John, do we have any hands raised in the public?
No hands are raised.
With that, I'll turn it back over to the commissioners. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion for approval of the project, but with the caveat that the roof of the auxiliary building be a hipped roof on all sides.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Hearing no opposition, we will consider that motion passed by unanimous consent. Thank you to the applicant.
Thank you.
And good luck
very
with the
much.
project.
Great.
You ever done? John, assuming there's no report on the activities of the Historical Commission from the staff?
Well, I did send the staff report to you yesterday. I apologize. I don't have the permit log because Ellen and I is
saw that.
updating the reporting utility in Eclipse, its computer system, but as soon as that's up and running, I'll generate that report and send it to you. But otherwise, nothing to address.
Okay, well, thank you. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right. Thank you, everyone.